So, Sir Inc., we're a managed service provider. We provide tech to a lot of different companies, and also cybersecurity services, as well as various AI kind of initiatives and transformations. We like to say we make tech work, and communication is the foundation of everything we do. And we do more than say it, we kind of live that. That's our motto. Like I said, I'm Dave Alton. I'm the CTO here at Sir Inc. We've been in business for 20 plus years. I've got a huge background in security and compliance. I've been part of GTIA's Global Cybersecurity Task Force and also part of the users that are helping to develop the trust mark at GTIA. I am also a trusted advisor to a bunch of different SMBs, and I translate a lot of really complex security topics into business kind of functions and things that need to be done. I also, in my spare time, like to be a maker. I do some woodworking, play with 3D printers all the time, and kind of mess around with a lot of stuff in the garage. And I happen to be a proud dad of a freshman baseball player, and we just are watching him get started with his season. So let's kind of jump into where we're at with insider threats. So 83% of organizations have experienced some type of insider threat in the past year. Now, that isn't to say that the insider threats are all malicious. It's just to say there's a lot of situations where an insider either maliciously or inadvertently provides access to systems that allow an attack. 95% of the breaches involve some kind of human error, whether that's, like I said, some kind of, malicious, which is really, really low, a mistake, which is very common, or some kind of actual breach where, bad guy gets in. The average cost of an insider threat and attack is around $17.4 million annually per organization. So that is a lot higher than what an external data breach costs. And that's primarily because you see a lot more dwell time. So that's how long the bad actor is in the solution or the attack. And they have access to a lot more typically because of the insider situation. So what is an insider threat? So the big one is some type of accidental insider. This is, hey, made a mistake. I was configuring something. I forgot to close a port. I set up a simple password because I was just testing. Those are generally what we see, and normally are something that's easily kind of managed, right? You have the malicious insider. That's where an employee or someone trusted inside your organization has the capability to do intentional harm for either gain or revenge. We see this a lot of times in kind of disgruntled kind of situations, employee HR type issues. They're unfortunate, but they do happen. And then compromised insider, and that's where a user has had their credentials compromised and somebody is like kind of acting like them within the organization. This is most common. We see this most of the time in a business email compromise. And that's why we say, it's really, really important to kind of pay attention to those email threats. They're generally for financial gain. They generally have some pretty easy ways to protect against. So the numbers around this are kind of crazy, right? So 48%. There's been a 48% increase in incidents this year. The average negligent incidents per year is around 13 and a half, right? And that's per year at your organization, right? Again, it's not malicious. 90, probably more than 90% of these are some kind of mistake. 74% of all breaches include some kind of human element, whether that's you clicked on something or you are using simple passwords or you're not using 2FA. And then the average time to contain an insider threat incident is around 81 days. Now, that number is way down. It used to be over a year at one point in time, but that number has come down significantly. So it's much, much better. But typically, how you're finding out about this, an insider threat or an insider issue, is that something happened, right? You now have ransomware sitting there or something along those lines. So we're going to talk about a few case studies here. So this is one that we've seen multiple times. Small accounting firm, they do their 24 tax returns, and they get back from the IRS that they're flagged as fraudulent, meaning somebody already filed the return for that client. But what had happened is that the small accounting firm, a user got compromised, not intentionally. Again, this wasn't a malicious type of thing, but the user gets compromised, and then the bad actor is able to go in and create fake accounts in the tax software, and then use their own tax software to file fraudulent returns. Those returns are then sent to addresses where the bad guys want them sent, and things like that. So then, in this particular instance, there was around $31,000 in response costs. So that the client was responsible for that. So they had to go fix things with the IRS, get those refunds back where possible. I think a few were not able to be gotten back. So the insurance had to pay out. And it really freaked some of their clients out, right? So it damaged their reputation some. So it's really, really important to kind of pay attention to how these insider threats kind of manifest and work through. So here's another one. This one, again, a lot of small businesses don't do their own coding, but it's a frequent kind of thing that we see. This one happened in the federal government. An employee made a coding mistake, right, when they set up a website. And in doing so, they exposed around 120,000 taxpayer records to search engines. And it went undetected for almost a year, right? Again, no malicious intent behind this. Nobody was trying to expose, U.S. taxpayers' information. It was just an error, right? So again, it's having that secure mindset. A lot of times we see with developers, it's all about developing. We're all I'm trying to get this done, and I don't need security. I'll make sure that gets set up. But a lot of times that stuff kind of falls by the wayside. So it's really, really important to kind of pay attention to not doing it the easy way. Do it the right way. Do it with the security in mind. Make sure that it's set up from the beginning. So this is probably by far the most likely way someone unintentionally provides information to bad guys, right? So you go into Office 365, maybe you're in Google, and you say, hey, I need to share a file with somebody. You create a link. And when you create that link, it defaults to a sensitivity level where pretty much anybody with that link can go now see it, right? So there are certain files that you share that maybe everybody does need to see. But I would say in general, no file ever needs to have to always be exposed to everyone all the time, right? You can always limit access to someone that you've supplied the link to, right? So take the extra 2 seconds. It doesn't take very long, but you go in and you say, hey, anybody I put in here and has the link is allowed to see this file, right? Don't make it so easy that a bad actor, if they just troll your Microsoft Office, can find your information, right? So that sensitive data stays within your walls, and you don't end up with exposing something unintentionally. It's kind of a funny story, but my wife texted me 3 weeks ago, said, hey, I need you to go to my office and take a picture of a notebook. And I texted her back. I said, it better not have passwords on it. Sure enough, it didn't have passwords. It had something that reminded her of what those passwords were. So it was a little better than having passwords written down, but effectively she was writing down passwords. Um, Use a password manager. It's so much easier than trying to remember all the passwords that we have to manage, right? We still find we will walk into offices, no joke, and we'll sit down with the owner, and the owner has a sticky note at the bottom of his monitor, and that sticky note has the password to his computer on it, right? It's really, really important to not kind of manage your passwords that way, right? 28% of IT professionals cite poor password management as the top remote work risk, right? So it's really easy if a bad guy has your credentials. If that password's simple or easy to crack, then they're able to go in and kind of pose as you and be that insider threat. Um, it's simple, right? Use a unique password for every site you go to. Make sure that it's complex, so never password 123 or something along those lines, and then make sure it's anywhere from 12 to 16 characters is typically enough. But the longer the better, right? It's way better to have a longer password than a shorter one. Now, how do you remember all those? It's tough, right? I'm to the age where my memory does not always serve me best sometimes. Actually, I'm not sure it ever did. But it's really, really hard to remember all those. So get a password manager, right? Have that available so that you can save those passwords. It creates them. You don't actually know most of the passwords to most of your accounts. You know one, right? That's your password manager's kind of account access, and that's it, and nothing else. And then you don't really have to worry about it. It's never going to set up a weak password for you, right? It's always going to be complex. It's always going to be unique. Those are all things you don't have to worry about anymore with a password manager. When outsiders look like insiders, business email compromise by far is the largest of this, right? A bad guy gets a hold of your credentials, he gets into your Office 365, he sets up some crazy rules, and now he can pose as you. Um, we see this more in the finance area. This is typically a financially motivated attack. Occasionally we'll see kind of, espionage level type attacks, but in general, it's a financially motivated attack, right? The attacks are really made to look legitimate. It's tough to spot it, even for someone like me who does like this is all I do for a living, right? Is kind of security and making sure things are managed well, and I still can get fooled, right? They look legitimate. There's normally only one character that's off. It's very, very tough to recognize when something isn't right in this kind of in these trusted kind of email chains, right? Finance teams are a huge target for this, right? Anybody in finance, anybody in accounting, anybody that's paying bills or receiving payments is gonna be targeted. So those folks need extra training and extra management and extra kind of vigilance to make sure that they're not doing something silly, right? And then you may have an external attacker disguise themselves as a trusted colleague to bypass the suspicion and really get what they want, right? Which is really, in general, what business email compromise gets you to. So we're always on the lookout for, hey, is this really coming from this person? We tell clients this all the time. If you don't have this policy in place, institute it right away. Anything where a financial transaction is going to take place should never take place solely by email. Make a phone call, make sure that the email that you got is actually from the person regarding the thing that they're saying, right? We even see this with employees, right? I've hey, I want to change my W-2 information, or I need my bank account, my direct deposit to go somewhere else. That will frequently or can frequently get right past HR because they're expecting that this inside user knows these things and they're sending it out like an insider. So pay attention to that type of stuff. We always are on the lookout for this stuff. We generally look for this on kind of an external basis, but it's good to look at this from an insider standpoint too, right? An inside user suddenly starts downloading a bunch of large files off hours. They institute some unusual email forwarding rules. We see repeated multi-factor authentication attempts, access to systems outside their normal job function. A lot of people don't recognize the difference and how difficult it is to really recognize the difference between an insider, somebody who's trusted, and an outsider that has that insider's credentials. So if you're inside the organization, you have an automatic level of trust that we don't give a lot of other people. So we try and look for behaviors. We have systems in place in general that look for, hey, it's really odd that this user is, running a PowerShell script through Microsoft, Office 365, through, Microsoft Word or Outlook. That's uncommon. So we want to make sure that we're managing that, properly and well. So the principle of least privilege, some people call this zero trust. It's not about that you don't have trust for people, but if it's like, the government, what's your need to know, right? My dad was in the civilian side of the military and worked a lot in computers. And I would ask him questions, right? I was curious, and I would ask him, what are you working on? And he said, what's your need to know? And a lot of times I thought he was just being kind of, like dismissive of me, but that really wasn't it. It was really more about this concept of principle of least privilege. If I don't need to know everything, then I shouldn't have access to it, right? So grant minimum necessary access only, review the permissions regularly, remove access when roles change, and then it's one of the strongest defenses against insider risk. If me as a user doesn't have access to things that I don't need access to, then the bad guy doesn't have access to those things if they take over my account, right? Another good example of this is, we'll walk into a new client, we'll start kind of an evaluation of their systems, and we will often see that the business owner has global admins, right? So in Microsoft 365, it means you can basically do anything. And they're shocked to learn that, like, if a bad guy got a hold of your user information, then you would end up with that bad guy having global user access or global access permissions. That means they have access to everything in the organization. So you've just created this really, wide gate for a bad guy to kind of get stuff out of. But if you take that away, okay, yeah, it's bad that they're inside your email, but it's not catastrophic where they're inside everyone's email, right? So what do we do? So we're gonna talk a little bit about the four kind of pillars of how we kind of manage this, right? What are some practical steps? So prevent. You want to put some training policies in place and make sure your access controls are tight. Then you want to have monitoring, alerts, and regular audits to detect anything that's kind of outside of normal behavior. Then you need a plan to respond to those incidents. It should include communication protocols, who has access to what is in your inventory. And then we want to recover those backup systems and the business, make sure that we have business continuity plans in place. So this is kind of a cycle, and it needs to be paid attention to all the time. It's very, very seldom that we see these, like set it and forget it. So this is something that you always want to keep up to date. And your people are one of your best defenses. While they are one of the largest risks inside of any organization, if you really kind of work with them and train them on security awareness training, make sure they're up to date on the latest scams and what's going on in both your organization and the world at large, it prepares them for when something bad does happen, right? Culture of security. I don't always subscribe to this culture of security. I think culture is more broad than just security, but having your culture embrace security and make sure that everybody knows that hey, security is just as much my responsibility as the IT guys, as the CEO, right? It's really important that everybody take security, make sure that they understand how important security is throughout the organization, right? It's everyone's job to be on the security team. Cybersecurity is by far one of the most team sports in IT. Because it doesn't just take IT, it takes everyone in the organization doing the right things. Encourage reporting. Um, Make sure that that employees are empowered to make and report on anything that looks suspicious or unusual or just doesn't seem right. It's way better. It's like we get emails all the time. Hey, is this spam? Is this a scam? Do I need to worry about this? Oh, I clicked on this. We love those emails. We hate finding out, oh yeah, I clicked on that last month and forgot to tell you, right? Like it's so far gone at that point. We don't have a lot of recourse on how to fix things. So it's really important that we are notified as soon as something happens, and then we're managing to that as often as we can. So what can you do? Let's say you don't have a lot of resources or you're not as familiar with IT. Look, these four basic things will help you immensely, right? Turn multi-factor authentication on everywhere. I mean everywhere. Your social media accounts, your bank, your email. It doesn't matter the solution that you're using. Turn multi-factor authentication on. It is by far one of the best ways to prevent some kind of attack. Make sure that you have automated backup solutions. And this goes for small organizations too, or one-man shops. Look, a lot of your data lives on that one machine. What happens if you lose it? Like, not to just ransomware, but like, oops, spilled coffee on it or water or something along those lines. Make sure that you're being backed up all the time. Email security filters need to be higher, not lower, right? I know people are worried about missing an email from an important client or from a new client, but honestly, the risk of having those email filters be wide open is so scary and potentially creates a situation where you're gonna have a problem later, right? Make sure that basic monitoring and alerting tools are turned on so oh, hey, suddenly a bunch of files are being downloaded or deleted or along those lines. If you're not paying attention to that stuff, you may find out too late. So what do you do next, right? Take some actions, right? Assess your current insider threat risks, right? Understand what is going to cause or create situations where your inside users are going to create a threat, right? Implement those basic monitoring and controls that we talked about. Train your team on security awareness and not just phishing, right? This is like, hey, if you get a call from somebody or you get a text from the toll roads, which I think is probably my favorite one right now, because I don't live anywhere near a toll road. It seems silly, but make sure that they're aware of those types of things, so that they can respond to it properly and manage it. You can manage it well. Um, Develop that incident response plan. Really, really important in the in that wake of an incident, in the midst of it happening. It's so hard to figure things out because you're paralyzed. If you have the plan, you can at least work the plan. It will change and morph and it'll be different, but you're not having to figure it out as you go. And remember that most threats are accidents. People are not intentionally trying to attack your organization or your business from the inside. There's an underlying cause or mistake that happened generally. If you have any questions, we would love to take those. So feel free to email info@sirinc.com. That's sirinc.com. We're happy to kind of jump into any of those kind of types of questions. If you learn something new, if you like this content, this video, and you want to see more of it, make sure you like it. Make sure that you tell your friends about it. And we respond to any of the comments that we see in these, and we're happy to kind of take those on. If you do need help, if you're not sure how to get started, reach out to us. We're happy to book any kind of strategy session with you and review what is going to work for your organization. Like I said, we work with businesses of all sizes and budgets, and we are very, very capable of managing and just letting you know, like, what could you do? What are some of the things that can be done, and not make it onerous, right? Make it something that's obtainable and reachable. And I want to thank everybody for coming today. Again, hit like, subscribe if you like it. Make sure you comment on it. We're happy to answer any of those questions as they come up. Appreciate all your time, and we look forward to hearing from you in the future.